Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
By regular, let's see, before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, we should first offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Srinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha.
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha.
Vidyantas Toya Bhadrani.
Vidyantas Bhadrani.
Vidunoti Suhritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17. Text 35. Chapter is entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali. Sutta Uvacha Parikshit Taivam Adishtaha. Actually, that H is not pronounced that way because it's not literally the end of the line. Parikshitaivam Adishta Sa Kalir Jata Vepathu Sa Kalir Jata Vepathu Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Dandapanim Ivodyatam Sutta Vacha Parikshitaivam Adishta Sakalir Jatave Patuhu Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Dandapanim Ivodyatam Sutta Vacha Parikshitaivam Adishta Sakalir Jatave Patuhu Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Dandapanim Ivodyatam. Is that
Sutta Uvacha
Shitvam Adita
Shitaivam Adishta
Sakale Jata Vipata
Sakale Jata Bepatu
Tam Udyatisam Adedam
Tam Udyatasim Ahedam
Dandapanim Ivudatam
Dandapani Ivodyatam Sutta Uvacha Parikshitaivam Adishtaha Sakalir Jata Bepatu Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Dandapanim Ivodyatam
Sutta Uvacha
Sutta Uvacha
Parikshitaivam Adishta
Parikshitaivam Adishta
Sakale Jatavataha
Sakale Jatavataha
Tam Udayatasim Ahidam Dandapanam Vivodayatam
Sutta Vacha
Parikshitaivam Adishta
Parikshitaivam Adishta
Sakalir Jata Vipatu
Sakale Jata Vipata
Tam Udyatasem Ahedam
Tagudastam Gadedam
Dandapane Vibodyatam
Dandapanim Vibudyatam.
Guests are welcome to try it if they like, but sometimes they do and sometimes they don't want to, so you're welcome if you want. You want to try it, Jimmy? You can try if you want.
Fine hearing it for this session.
You want to just hear it? It's fine. Okay. Some guests like to jump in, some don't. It's fine either way. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, Sri Sutta Goswami said, the personality of Kali...
Word for word.
I'm to read the whole thing first.
Okay.
Yeah. The personality of Kali, thus being ordered by Maharaj Parikshit, began to tremble in fear. Seeing the king before him like Yamaraj, ready to kill him, Kali spoke to the king as follows. Okay, so Sri Sutta Goswami said, please repeat. Sri Sutta Goswami said,
Sri Sutta Goswami said,
the personality of Kali,
the personality of Kali,
thus being ordered by Maharaj Parikshit,
thus being ordered by Maharaj Parikshit,
began to tremble in fear.
began to tremble in fear.
Seeing the king before him like Yamaraj,
Seeing the king before him like Yamaraj,
ready to kill him,
ready to kill him,
Kali spoke to the king as follows.
Kali spoke to the king as follows.
Purport. The king was ready to kill the personality of Kali at once, as soon as he disobeyed his order. Otherwise, the king had no objection to allowing him to prolong his life. The personality of Kali also, after attempting to get rid of the punishment in various ways, decided that he must surrender unto him, and thus he began to tremble in fear of his life. The king, or the executive head, must be so strong as to stand before the personality of Kali, like the personality of death Yamaraj. The king's order must be obeyed, otherwise the culprit's life is at stake, is in risk. My mind has its own idea. That is the way to rule the personalities of Kali, who create disturbance in the normal life of the state citizens. So I want to read the next verse too, because it just goes right with this one. It says what Kali then spoke, and then the purport's the same concept. So I'm going to read them together as a unit. But first, just to catch up, this is a situation, outline the scene. The good saintly king is patrolling his kingdom. His kingdom happens to be the whole world. He's emperor of all the kingdoms. So he's, in those days, like 5,000 years ago, they had a world emperor. And he was a saintly person. That means he was under the advice of the Brahmanas. He was not like some kind of big dictator in his own on his own. He was trained up and under the advice of saintly brahmanas. And so, but he had to be strong to be the king, so he had to control the kingdom in the right way. So anyway, he's patrolling the kingdom, and he comes across this scene. There's a cow and a bull being tortured by a low-class person dressed as a king. Now, in this society, anybody dressed as a king better be qualified with saintliness as well as brahminical training, as well as just power. And this guy obviously had neither, actually. And it turns out this is a very symbolic situation. Real personalities here, but they weren't just an ordinary cow, an ordinary bull, and an ordinary low-class person in a costume. This was the cow. The bull was Yamaraj, who is the demigod in charge of punishment after death for those who are not surrendered to the Lord. And he has taken the form, because the demigod can do this, he's taken the form of a bull, and he's walking the earth. And he has come across this cow that's in real poor condition and really sad. And this cow is actually Mother Earth, or Mother Bhumi, is her name in this language. And she is lamenting, and her description of her sadness is just exactly like cows of today. And this was 5,000 years ago when cows were protected. So, and in fact, the bull was being beaten by this low-class person. And the low-class person isn't ordinary either. He's the personality of Kali. He's the personality of this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So he is starting it off by attacking the cows and bulls, who are supposed to be practically sacred and protected. And so the good saintly king has discovered this situation, and so he has had speech exchanges with the bull and with this personality who's scared of him now. And so the king knows exactly what's going on, and he's prepared to kill, because the king has to kill bad elements in his duty. And so, however, Kali is surrendering to him, and now the king, because of his duty, he won't kill him. Because of his soul is surrendered to him, he won't kill the soul. However, the issue is where can Kali now live? Because Kali is a bad influence, and he's not allowed in the kingdom, which is the world. And so this is an issue now. So, anyways, here is this is where I'm on Kali's side of this in this conversation. So that's what's going on here. And so I'll read the next verse. And so this is text 36. Kaliruvacha yatrakva vata vatsyami sarvabhauma tavagyaya lakshaye tatra tatrapi tvam ateshu sharasanam. And the translation is, O your majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bow and arrows wherever I look. Purport. The personality of Kali could see that Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of all lands all over the world, and thus anywhere he might live, he would have to meet with the same mood of the king. The personality of Kali was meant for mischief, and Maharaj Parikshit was meant for subduing all kinds of mischief mongers, especially the personality of Kali. It was better, therefore, the personality of Kali to have been killed by the king then and there, instead of being killed elsewhere. He was, after all, a surrendered soul before the king, and it was for the king to do what was required. So, I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge, and I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So,
Are you going to do word for word?
on that one, do you want to do word for word on this one too?
The first one.
The first one. We did do word for word on it?
No.
We didn't?
No.
Just one we did. Sorry. Okay, let's do word for word on the first one. Sorry.
That's the best time.
Sorry. My total knowledge here. Sutta Vacha.
Sutta Vacha.
Sri Sutta Goswami said.
Sri Sutta Goswami said.
Parikshita.
Parikshita.
By Maharaj Parikshit.
By Maharaj Parikshit.
Evam.
Evam.
Thus.
Thus,
Adishta,
Adishtaha,
being ordered, Saha,
Saha,
he, Kali,
Kali,
the personality of Kali,
the personality of Kali,
Jata,
Jata,
there was, Vepatu,
Vepatu,
trembling,
trembling,
Tam,
him,
Udyata,
Ujata,
raised,
raised,
Asim, sword, Aha,
Aha,
said,
said,
Idam,
thus,
Dandapani,
Dandapanim,
Yamaraj, the personality of death,
Yamaraj, the personality of death,
Eva,
Eva,
light,
Udyatam,
almost ready.
Okay,
sorry about that. So I was thinking about giving the background. So we have the saintly king representing the protection of the Brahminical culture and cow protection. He's protecting society in that way. And he's not, the Vaishyas protect the cows, the king protects cow protection, protects the Vaishyas. So anyways, he is now here, the saintly king ready to kill. Now we hardly know this in our experience. We hardly know something like this in our experience because we don't have saintly rulers. We don't have anybody qualified to be judge, jury, and executioner on the spot. It's totally against the law. We don't have, because this is the age of Kali and it would be abused. It was abused. And so the monarchical system has been replaced by government of the people and by the people. But most of the people are Shudras. So I'm going to explain. Shudra means the lowest class. Now there are naturally occurring classes of people. And the Vedic civilization, which is the real term, not Hinduism. The real term is Vedic civilization, or Varnashram. Varnashram is a word made of two words. Varna means the type of worker, and ashram means the stage of life. And this is in spiritual life. So the stage of life is real easy. First you're a student, then you're a householder. First you're a celibate, austere student, being trained up. Then in self-control and knowledge as well. Then you are a householder, allowed to deal with some sense gratification and get some money and raise your kids. And then you retire from that for spiritual life, and then, last of all, if you're qualified, if you can do it, you take a vow of renunciation and travel around and preach, just depending on the Lord. So these are the stages of life called the ashrams. We have the word ashram meaning like a place to stay, but so it also means the building you stay in. But as a quality of that building, it's not just any building, it's an ashram. So really, it means protecting your stage of spiritual life. Kind of. It means a place where your spiritual life is protected. So ashram is the original meaning, and it's your stage of life. And then the varnas are the types of workers. So this is what these naturally occur. These stages of life naturally occur all over the world. But without the Vedic guidance, they won't be to their full benefit. They won't work together right. They won't know how to do it right. And also same with Varnas. There are naturally occurring types of people. There are the Brahmanas. They are the natural scholars, preachers, teachers, priests, like that. And they're pretty simple and renounced. They're not very interested in managerial stuff. They want to study and they have a broad view, a broad spiritual view. Then there's the Kshatriyas. They are the natural warriors, kings, managers, like that, protectors. And they're active, but because they're prone to action like that, they need the Brahmanas to guide them. And in the proper Vedic society, the Kshatriyas loved the Brahminical culture. And they appreciated the Brahmanas guiding them. So they were trained by them. Then the Vaishyas are the productive class. They are the guys who will make the money and raise the food and protect the cows. The hands-on work of protecting the cows, like that. And then the Shudras, this is the largest class. Each class is bigger than the one before because the fewest people are Brahmanas. And most people are the Shudras. And Shudras are mostly meant to be like employees. And which is what most people do. They think, where am I going to get a job? And so this is natural and naturally occurring. And another word for Shudra, though, is one who laments. They're because they're kind of lower class in their intelligence, and so they lament a lot, whereas the Brahmanas are wise and they understand everything. So the Shudras don't understand, they react emotionally and lament. So that word means that too. So anyway, in the story, this personality of Kali is a Shudra. And because he's kind of lower class. He's not spiritually trained up. And he's wearing the dress of a king. He's pretending to be someone qualified to do something to someone, and he's not trained up at all. So he's complete imposture. So that also, just like the condition of the cow, foretells the condition of cows in modern society, and also the condition of the earth, because she is Mother Bhumi, or Mother Earth. And the condition of the earth is pretty bad now too, being exploited, global warming, all these things going on, pollution. And the cows are suffering so much in these vast feedlots and getting slaughtered. And so all this is foretelling now. That was 5,000 years ago when it wasn't like this yet. And Kali is foretelling the condition of modern government. They're not spiritually trained up, they're not qualified, and they're dressing as government people, whatever the current dress is for government people, and they're going around very important, but they're not qualified and they're not doing anything really high. They're really Shudras. They're low class, no spiritual vision, like that. And, like everybody nowadays. And, more to say about the bull. The bull has 3 legs cut off. Now this bull is the personality of religion, and the 3 legs are the principle. 4 legs are the principles of religion that religion stands on. And they are not principles of any one particular religion. They are standard things that make people more highly qualified. And that 4 principles are austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Everybody will agree that those for all religions. All religions should be supporting these standards. And so, personality of Kali was breaking the legs. So there's only 1 leg left, truthfulness, and that was shaky. It was getting beat up. So this is the condition. This is the situation. And so I thought, now I was explaining the whole Varna ashram system. It was the Vedic civilization. Everybody was trained up in the system, and there's a way of working together, and each level has its proper qualifications to be developed and its proper duties to be understood, and the ways of relating to each other that's proper, so that it can support spirituality. So I thought that I made a study of it, and we got a book here that we put together, and my husband and I, I'm going to read some things about the Kshatriyas, the warriors and kings and managers. So I'm going to read some things about them to understand their qualities that they're supposed to have in their duties. So we'll talk about that for a bit here. So, under the heading Qualities and Symptoms of Kshatriyas, heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. That's from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. So, if I should read that one more time, please, Madhava-priya. Okay. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. I'll read the rest. The symptoms of a Kshatriya are power and fame. And Prabhupada summarizing Narada Muni's teaching in Canto 7. To be influential in battle, unconquerable, patient, challenging, and charitable. To be forgiving, to be attached to the Brahminical nature, and to be always jolly and truthful. These are the symptoms of the Kshatriyas. Narada Muni says in more detail in Canto 7.
So, Madhava-priya, is this something that we would determine from childhood? Like,
it's something that, well, the children come in different types, and you can kind of see it, but that has to be developed. So you have to be, in the Vedic culture, they're supposed to be training according to the child's propensities. Like you wouldn't train a Shudra how to be king, because he'll either misuse or he just won't be up to it at all. Because he's a more naturally simple guy who will do some nice service.
So I mean, how do we go about determining the child's propensity?
First go about learning what the varnashram thing is and study the different qualities and duties and all that, and observe people for a while. It's sort of like, I like to say, it's sort of like studying Bhagavad Gita and learning that we're not these bodies, we're spirit souls. Okay, you can learn it in a minute, but you won't really learn it in a minute. You know what I mean? You got to grow into it. You got to keep studying it in different ways and observing, and you gradually grow into understanding, and you change your behavior accordingly, but you can't do it in a minute.
Then that's application.
Yeah, that's application. So
Some
this
people
is how,
never get to that. But
if you do like that and understand yourself and understand what the scriptures say about it and observe people around you and see confirmation and examples, then gradually you can understand how it works, but you won't in a minute. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah.
the Gurukul system was one of the methods of observing the kids.
Yeah, in the lower grades, the guru or the teacher of the children would observe, and he's experienced, so he would see different personality types. Because kids show different personality types. But if you don't know, if you don't understand the varnas deep down in your own self, that's how to recognize correctly in other people. It's just something you grow into by studying. Yeah.
And parents can help too.
Parents, yeah. If we all study this, it will grow. Our understanding will grow. So, okay, I'll go to the next one. We have a little group of things here. So, this is the heart of the Kshatriya. So, this quote is from the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Since this king will always remain on the path of piety, he will be neutral to both his son and the son of his enemy. If the son of his enemy is not punishable, he will not punish him. But if his own son is punishable, he will immediately punish him. So this means one is not, a proper kshatriya to do his duty is not just emotionally attached and partial to one side and not the other side. It means he's always got to keep his intelligence in gear and his understanding of spiritual truth in gear and not react. Because he's going to have to kill, perhaps. I mean, in the traditional society, he would have to kill. Because nowadays we have all this divided up into all these branches of government. And so when it finally comes down to the executioner, it's a long ways past the judge and jury and all that. So the jailer and everything. So finally we get to the executioner, and it's all full of checks and balances because we're hoping that we will catch any mistake or unfairness. And so make sure we got the right guy and it's properly done. So, and all this was like trained into the king originally. So this King Parikshit Maharaj is one of the last saintly kings who was really thoroughly like this. And it started in Kali Yuga, the age of Kali starts setting in. The quality of the monarchy goes down until we have in the past few centuries completely replaced pretty much all the monarchies. Or even if they're still there, they don't have full power. Like in England, they just sort of, somebody for the people to gossip about and follow, and they have ceremonial, some kind of leadership, but it's mostly been replaced by democracies or other forms of government, communism or dictatorship or anything. But the monarchy's kind of been replaced because it's Kali Yuga and things have deteriorated. And so anyways, the proper kshatriya would be neutral in his judgment and keeping always going by intelligence and training rather than scriptural knowledge and faith in the Brahmanas and faith in Krishna and fairness and all this. And his own qualities of being proper and not just reacting in anger and not reacting by emotional attachment or aversion like that. So, when fighting, a kshatriya cannot flee from the battlefield. However, when a kshatriya flees, that's something I'm going to read. It's just not to be powerless. Okay. The qualification of the kshatriya are described in the Bhagavad Gita. Two important qualifications are to have a sense of prestige and not to flee from battle. Sense of prestige is the right kind of pride, I guess. Doesn't mean the wrong kind of pride, but the right kind of pride. They have to maintain, if you're going to be king, if you're going to be in charge of if you're going to be a government, then you have to have a certain prestige about it, or nobody will follow. So you have to have a sense of that prestige, you have to maintain it. And you can't flee from battle, otherwise you will not be respected. The straightforward appreciation of an enemy's prowess is a characteristic of real Kshatriya spirit. And so this is how the Yakshas appreciated King Dhruva's prowess fighting them. So often in the stories, you'll see that the enemy praises a good move by their enemy. Because they are, it's sort of like, I guess you could say football is what we have left to celebrate that. We will, it's like a sport, so you praise the other guy maybe. You're willing to praise the other guy or something. And nowadays you put out, if somebody does something good, you put out some lying propaganda and make them look bad. As far as real politics or real governments. But this was the spirit, this was the way it was supposed to be. I'm trying to read these things to give an idea of the real Kshatriya. And protection. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, so there is no need for hesitation. 231. Okay, out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called Kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called Kshatriya. Trayate means to give protection. The Kshatriyas are especially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it's never a factor or a principle. That's from the purport of the same verse that was quoted. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases of law and order. So the violence is required. We're not sentimentalists where we say no violence. Violence is required, and sometimes. And not all the time violence. You gotta have some violence. It's not too quiet when you gotta have violence. No, not like that. But for certain cases where you can't stop it, like some in the Bhagavad Gita, is it the 10th canto of Krishna says of means of discipline and punishment, like our means of correction and punishment. So that's our ultimate and most effective means of punishment. So in the case of a criminal is really doing harm, really like killing or really harming society or something, the king would, like that, if he won't stop, can't be reformed, cut his head. The king was so powerful in his spirituality that he could cut off a head when necessary and not be crushed by it, or not become addicted to blood and gore and killing. Like nowadays we have people who they would either go to pieces, or they would become evil dictators if they cut off heads themselves. So people can't do that nowadays. We don't have that kind of Kshatriya, but we certainly have elements in society who are born with this potential, but we don't have the training to really protect this kind of quality. So that's what the movement we're supposed to be doing. First of all, we're supposed to be creating Brahmanas. And Brahmanas will guide the Kshatriyas. So we should be also eventually creating Kshatriya quality. Not that we're going to cut off heads, because we have to work under the government. The big government does that kind of stuff. They take care of those things. But if the society collapses, if there's no big government, then, or if there's a shooter, suppose there's an active shooter, and there are those in the community who have an inclination to protect, and so knowing that enemies come with guns, they have guns, and they practice or study or something that how to use their guns. Because when an active shooter comes, you got to kill him. You don't just try to wound him, because he might still shoot. He might not really feel it, and he might still be crazy enough to keep shooting. You got to try to kill him. And so this would be an example that could, in our modern time, actually happen. So Kshatriyas who are in the Vedic times, who were responsible for the peace and welfare of the whole society. They were the ultimate ones, and they would have to kill sometimes. So I've got a few more to read. Fighting ready to kill. Which one of these did I want to read? So Kshatriyas are allowed to hunt in the forest for the purpose of learning the killing art, not to kill animals for eating or any other purpose. So in the old days, the Kshatriya would go in the forest and kill dangerous animals that would threaten the sages in the forest meditating. The Kshatriya kings were sometimes expected to cut off the head of a culprit in the state. For this reason, Kshatriyas were allowed to hunt in the forest. That was from Srimad Bhagavatam 4.13.40 purport. I should have been saying these all wrong. Source. A Kshatriya is allowed to kill only for maintenance of the law and order of the state. He's not allowed to kill or commit violence without reason. Violence is certainly a path leading to a hellish condition of life, but is also required for maintenance of the law and order of the state. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.11.7 purport. And then, this is Krishna's business. There may be this is Kshatriya's business. There may be a fight. Somebody may attack us. Not that chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. No. They must come forward. Yes, we are prepared to fight. That is Kshatriya. So Prabhupada said this in our walk, where he was talking about Varnashram in Vrindavan on March 12, 1974. Our king should be taught how to fight also. There will be military training. There will be training how to kill. Varnashram. So Prabhupada was envisioning this, and certainly if society breaks down or if there's an active shooter, or in India they sometimes have a riot in the neighboring, like Muslims or something. You know, the tension between the religions flare up and the Muslims attack the Hare Krishnas. It's happened in the past, it could happen again. You're under attack, you can't just wait for the police. Sometimes you have to fight. Yeah. I
think 2-3 weeks ago, there was a tigress in India that had killed 9 people, and they finally hunted this tiger down and killed it. I'm sure it was Kshatriya types that went after that.
Yeah, Kshatriya types would have done. Yeah, because even tigers are endangered species, and mostly we don't want to kill them because we don't want to lose a whole species. But if a tiger has become accustomed to killing and eating people, that's got to go. You got to kill them anyways.
9 people.
Yeah, so somebody willing to go out and be brave and fearless and knows how to kill and is willing to do it, has to do it. So one more here. Duty of government. The Kshatriya king is considered to be the representative of God to give protection to the helpless and chastise the miscreants. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:17.5 purport. That's right from the chapter we did today. The protection of the lives of both the human beings and the animals is the first and foremost duty of government. Of course, if a human being is killing people or attacking, and the animals are killing or attacking, then they gotta go. But as a whole, the government is supposed to protect the people and the animals in his kingdom, not just people. So, let's see. So I'll just read this one too. The principles of religion do not stand on some dogmas or man-made formulas, but they stand on 4 primary regulative observances, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. The mass of people must be taught to practice these principles from childhood. A secular state, that's from Srimad Bhagavatam 17:27 purport. A secular state may be indifferent to any particular type of faith, but the state cannot be indifferent to the principles of religion as above mentioned. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1732 purport. So, it is also the duty of the executive heads of state and others to take all necessary actions against the activities of Kali, or the persons influenced by the age of Kali. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1728 purport. And what's the activities of Kali? Well, we have 4 regulative principles here, and if you don't follow these principles, these are activities of Kali.
What are the 4 regulative principles?
Yeah, when you get there. You know, don't you?
I do, but I was asking.
You want me to say that? All right. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and no gambling.
And
so
that's 4 regulatory principles of freedom.
Yeah, regulative principles of freedom. If we become serious Hare Krishnas and we get initiated, we take a vow to follow these. And aspiring to be initiated or considering being initiated or just want to be a Hare Krishna, we still follow these principles. So these are principles that protect. These are regulative principles of behavior that protect the principles of religion. There's some correlation. It's not all direct. It's not like one regulative principle protects one principle of religion. It's a little less direct than that, but the behavior, according to these rules, protects the principles of religion. Yeah.
When I was in Gitanagri, they discussed that following the 4 regulative principles and chanting your rounds is actually what we do just to bring ourselves up to the level of a human being.
Yes. So there's the real human civilization, not animal civilization now where everybody does what they want and fights with each other and all the different things that go on that are not following the regulative principles. It's animal society, so we want to be human beings. Then we have these regulative principles of our behavior, which supports the regulative principles of religion.
Would you repeat those again for those who might miss?
Which ones? Both?
Religion. Principles.
Religion. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And the correlation, there's some direct correlation and some indirect correlation. So it's interesting that austerity, Prabhupada says in the purport, austerity is spoiled by pride. So yeah, there's a lot of austerity, but what good does it do if you have pride? And then the goodness of it is lost and so on. So then cleanliness, internal and external cleanliness is spoiled by illicit sex or too much association with opposite sex or sense gratification. Then mercy, surprisingly, is not directly destroyed by animal killing. And I wondered why. I figured out, once you kill animals, mercy's already gone. So what destroyed mercy? Intoxication. By intoxication, you don't care so much. That destroys mercy. And then truthfulness is destroyed by lying propaganda. So there's so much lying propaganda now, it's just a habit.
Mercy is animal killing.
No, not in this chapter. Prabhupada says it's from, and of course it's related. If we kill animals, we're not merciful.
Right.
But by the time you kill animals, mercy must have already got destroyed. So something destroyed it, and Prabhupada said intoxication. So intoxication is one of the rules. No eating meat is one of the rules. So some of it's directly correlated, some of it's indirectly correlated, but it's all tight in there. Follow the regulative principles of behavior, you support the principles of religion, you become a human being. And support the Brahminical culture, which means the culture taught by the Brahmanas, who are the highest spiritual people teaching the Vedic culture from the Vedic scriptures and the Vedic spiritual masters. So, there you have it. So, okay, yes.
You touched upon the Kshatriya class. And you also,
Kshatriya class?
Yeah, and you also talked about like criminals in general. And what comes to mind with me is the justification of killing, and that seems to be empowered by our governments as we believe we're under God. It's legitimate, in other words. So as we see even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking to Arjuna, this is okay. You will be killing your family members, but they will take new birth, and then all will be good. So it's not exactly killing, in other words. It's a different type of understanding.
Can't kill the soul.
Yeah, that's all.
The government is, a proper government is the agent, is an agent of karma. So if somebody does, it's actually a kindness to the criminal who has done something bad enough to deserve being killed, to kill him, because then he won't have to get the karma in his next life. That's the karma right there. And so his next life can start out a little more fresh from it. So even the killing is a mercy. So the king who's got to do this has got to keep his head on straight, go by his intelligence, by his knowledge of the scriptures and the spiritual principles that he learned from the Brahmanas, and always do his action, whatever action, in that spirit, not out of anger. Yeah.
This is under time, place, and circumstance. This is what was spoken to Arjuna and by Krishna, chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, 36. All these, it says, according to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happened to the Pandavas.
Yeah.
All these 6
All
items
6, yeah.
were ticked off. They were, number 1 aggressor is a poison giver. That happened to the Pandavas. Number 2, one who sets fire to the house.
That's what he did.
They gave him a house made out of wax and lit it while they were in it.
Planned it.
Yeah. One who attacks with deadly weapons, they did that. One who plunders riches, they played a fixed game of dice and stole their land.
Mm-hmm.
One who occupies another land, that's the same thing. And one who kidnaps a wife, and that's what they did with Draupadi. And so, for them, all 6 of these were ticked off.
Yeah.
And it goes on to say, from the Vedic injunctions, such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting an ordinary man, but Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal with them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness, however, is not for a Kshatriya.
Mm-hmm.
Although a responsible man in the administration of the state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly.
Yeah, Krishna actually called Arjuna a coward because Arjuna was becoming sentimental and not wanting to go to this war because for sentimental reasons. And so Krishna actually called him a coward. And Arjuna was not, I think he was egging him on because Arjuna really wasn't a coward, but Krishna was trying to awaken the Kshatriya spirit, and look, you got a duty. You're going to have to go out and kill on the battlefield. So,
for us in this age, we have government that is compartmentalized.
If somebody is in the act of trying to kidnap somebody's wife, if somebody comes and grabs the wife, and a guy has the ability, like has a gun or something, can shoot him, then it would probably be considered, if there's some evidence that he really was doing that and endangering the wife, and it would be probably
defense.
They would have to go to trial for it, but it could be said defense.
Definitely.
And likewise, if somebody gives poison or somebody tries to set your house on fire, especially if you're in it, it might be more than arson, it might be attempted murder.
Exactly.
So you might have to shoot that person on the spot to get him to stop. He's tipping out the gasoline and he's got a match. You may have to shoot him to keep the match from touching the gasoline, for example. But really you have to be, you can't take it upon yourself very much unless it's in the moment. You have to act to protect life. So because of the laws. And most people are Shudras, not Kshatriyas. So, and certainly not trained by the Brahmanas. So even people who are trained by their pastor, they don't understand these principles because it's not that available in Christianity, this analytical thing. And so they may act out of sentimentality and not really know the right thing to do. And so it's Kshatriya has to be a qualified person trained by the Brahmanas, who have to be qualified persons, the Brahmanas, and it all has to go by the scripture, which has to be properly understood by the spiritual master's instruction. So, and the spiritual master has to be in the line of disciplic successions of spiritual masters all the way back to Krishna. So it has to be proper, or else. Okay, it has to be all proper. So, do you have any questions, Jimmy?
Not at the moment. I had a lot of appreciation for what's being said.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
So I think we'll stop here. Thanks for everybody for participation. All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to